Hello and welcome to Off the Shelf Reviews.
I can't believe we're reviewing a film called Hell House.
And I'm Gary, and today we're going to review and discuss Hell House, LLC, which released in 2015 from writer-director Stephen Cognetti. Ian, why don't you give us the synopsis?
Well, the story follows 5 friends who have made their way to the Abaddon Hotel to turn it into a giant haunted house tour for Halloween. They are staying there over the course of a month, making sure that the place is ready for their exciting, scary tour that they want to show people. But while staying there, creepy things start to happen, and as the night fast approaches, we realize that a tragedy is about to unfold.
What's the problem, miss? I don't know. There's something into the wall. Someone's hurt. I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Please hurry, I don't want to die.
Well, I don't know about you, Ian, but when I see a found footage horror movie is available, I usually go, nah. I look at the title, the poster, who made it, who's in it, and if none of that, not one of them rings true. I mean, to be fair, like, you need to tick every one of those boxes before I'll have another look at it. But this one, I think it was the fact that it had the LLC at the end, which also made me go double no.
Like, what?
And so, yeah, this film, though, it's floated around in horror conversations here or there. It seems like it has a couple of diehard fans. It might very well be a floater in many eyes. But I have to put it out there and say for this director, it's his first time.
Yeah.
He's made a couple of student films or short films before this. But this is his directorial debut, I guess writing debut, editing debut. I have to commend him for it because I think he was working another job while doing this.
Yeah.
It took over 5 months of editing to get completed. But before that even, the film was not even going to be in a hotel, but in an abandoned house.
Right, okay.
Where you're going to make a horror movie, you're like, okay, I've got this script about something going on in a haunted house. Let's go find an abandoned house. Should be easy enough.
Yeah.
And apparently they'd spent nearly a year trying to find one without coming up with one.
Yeah.
Until they eventually found the hotel, which they will use in this film, which is the Waldorf Hotel,
Okay.
which is in Layton, Pennsylvania. So not in New York, like where it's set in the film.
Yeah,
It's obviously
yeah.
a fictional town and hotel, but it's a real location, which is actually used for horror tours around Halloween.
Ah, brilliant.
And they actually hired the person that runs those horror tours, Angie Moyer, and she became the set designer for this film as well.
Right.
So I was like, well, I mean, if you are making a horror movie, it's low budget, so that's fine. And you're doing found footage, well, yep, that means no budget as well.
Yeah.
And you've already got a location that already has a set designer that's going to set design it for your film. Win.
Yeah.
I mean, that is how you do it. If you've got no money, you work with what you got. And if you ain't got nothing, go there.
Yeah.
And I also have to say, for like this entire cast, no named cast really.
No.
1 or 2 of them have got a lot of credits here or there, but for the most
Nothing
part,
that stands out, yeah.
nothing that stands out, yeah.
Yeah, I like Gary, when we looked at the list and we realised that we had this Hell House from 2015 to review, which never heard of. I took a peruse on Wiki, as I normally do, and realised that the director, he didn't have any links, and the actors didn't have any links, and that it was a found footage film, and I was like, oh. It's not that I hate found footage films, it's just after watching Hell House, I realised they all follow the same formula. It's a found footage film formula. Try and say that 5 times fast. And, you're getting ready to sit down and watch these guys get together and go to this Abaddon Hotel. But we are learning this after the event. We're told that there was a tragedy in 2009. The film was made in 2015. That's a bit confusing. And there have been no survivors found. Nobody really talks about the tragedy of that night. They've really only got the camera footage that's been handed to them by this girl Sarah, that was recorded by the people that were in there that night. You've got this tour person's video who was on the horror tour that night and got some footage and then uploaded it to YouTube. And so we're following this Diane and her interviews and trying to uncover the tragedy. And for me, that's where the movie went.
Oh no!
Right at the start, because it was just the way they were.
Because if it did that for you right at the start, then it's not going to pick up really. Because The beginning I thought was the strongest part because I liked the framing device. I liked the news reports. What I liked was that there was some effort to go, let's get an ambulance, a fire truck, some costumes, and lots of extras.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, something's gone down here. And we're getting a sense of nobody knows what, and as we cut to all those like talking heads, everyone's saying like, whatever happened in there, the police didn't want to talk about it, the entire town shushed about it. And we get we know because we followed the tour, because this is about 5, 10, 15 minutes at the beginning of the film.
Yeah.
I mean, the film just goes spoilers and tells you everything right at the get-go.
Yeah, it does.
Because that's its setup, and then it goes, okay, so let's go back to the beginning to see how it got there. And so I'm like, okay, so that's the hook, is that we know something horrible happened and 15 or more people died.
Yeah, but
so like, okay, so how did that happen?
But that's the thing. The film sets up this idea at the start, but there's no payoff because we already know, because we're sat there with Diane, like you said, 15 people have died. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody's discussing about what happened in that night. All these people supposedly witnessed something that nobody's talking about. And even one of the professors who's just like, oh, well, whenever anybody asks me what happened that night, I say, watch the video. And so we watched the video. We can't see anything.
Whenever people ask me what happened in Hell House, I tell them, you watch the video. You tell me.
So it's not on me that 25 minutes in the film I'm like...
There. Yeah, so that means something happened there and we haven't seen it, and nobody outside of the events have seen it or know what happened there either. So that's why we watch, to see if we find out.
The people in the basement saw something.
Yeah.
And we know that
but
because
those
the
that
camera
talked about
down.
it have also turned up dead. Any that were in there.
Not all.
But the rest of them have gone quiet
them.
because they don't want to talk about it. And so that's why it sets up.
Because nothing happened. But at the same time,
we just didn't see it.
In credit to, like we said, Stephen Cognetti, he had no budget. He had no special effects. He had no real great people to fall back on like a lot of great movies have. So the fact that I'm saying nothing happened, it's because he didn't film anything that happened because he didn't have any budget to make it happen. And when we do explain to you what happened, you're going to be sitting there going, oh, okay, that's what happened. But like I said, we're introduced to Ryan Jennifer Jones, who plays Sarah, and she meets up with Diane, the kind of reporter who's trying to investigate this tragedy that happened. And Sarah hasn't been seen since the night of the incident.
Yeah.
She's been missing for a while.
She says she's been in a better place.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy and unexplainable. And she gives this bag to Diane, which has got all of the videotapes that her and her 4 friends helped to record over the course of this month leading to the tragedy of the night. So then the tapes are taken off by this guy called Mitchell, who kind of comes in and off the screen. We don't really get introduced to him or see him. And he sits through the footage. But for me, what the film wasn't able to do very well, it wasn't able to kind of differentiate between 3 sets of footage that we're getting. Like, we're getting the camera work that Diane is using to record her interview with Sarah. We've also got the footage work of the person who recorded the tour and then uploaded it to YouTube. And now we're cutting to footage that Mitchell is watching of these people in this Abaddon hotel. And that is the majority of the film that we will watch, is the found footage that came from these people.
But yeah, I will agree with you on there, is that all 3 of them apparently use the exact same camera. Yeah. So there's no, you can't really tell whose footage you're watching. But I mean, my idea is that it's all been spliced together in the one documentary that we're watching now. So they've tried to do their best to seamlessly merge all the footage.
Right. That I get. But then there are certain things that happen in the film that I'm like, well, where did you get that footage from? That gets a little bit confusing. But we start watching the 5 friends. They're looking for this location. They've already got the Abaddon Hotel. And like you said, for the director, he's done very well because he's found the location, and now his actors, who aren't really actors, but they are just trying to act, are giving you the exact emotions that they get because they're seeing this place really for the first time. When they walk in and they see it's all dusty and it's run down, They're trying to work out how they're going to get electricity to run throughout this place, where they're going to put strobes and lasers and things like that. That's really great.
I also agree. I thought that the acting from everybody was really authentic. I was like, none of you are bad actors.
No.
None of you actually feel like actors at all. It doesn't even feel like there's a script, and it feels like you've all improv'd this, and it feels like a documentary.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, like, I'm not a fan of shaky cam and microphone rustling sound effects and glitch effects and all of that stuff. I was like, it can be very obnoxious and annoying.
Yeah.
But I had to take a moment and go, wow, actually, I am engaged with all of these personalities, even though there's no character growth, there's no character development.
Yeah.
There's bits of history, but they feel like real people.
Yeah.
So I commend all of these actors from that regard.
I said it to you as well before we turned the camera on. It just honestly, it feels like they Evil Deaded it, you know.
Yeah.
And I can't take that away from people when you literally have just a camera, a bunch of people, minuscule budget, and you manage to pull off a film. Commendations for you, because some people have all the fucking money in the world and they still can't pull anything out of their ass. These guys actually set it up that I'm sat there, I already know how this is already going to play out, mainly because the film is telling me at the beginning that this is how this is going to play out. But at the same time, I'm just like, okay, I'm along for the ride, but I've been on this ride a few times. I know when the shaky camera is going to start. I know when glitches start happening on camera, something's affecting it, but we just can't see it, you know. We've got Alex Taylor, played by Danny Bellini, who is Sarah's boyfriend. And Alex is in charge of the group, and he's that one guy you find in found footage films who's like, no guys, regardless of all the horrible things that's happening and all the people dying around us, we still have to carry on.
Well, he's the one who needs to rally the troops and get them excited for the job that they're going to be doing.
Oh, yeah.
He's also the one that we find out that is nearly broke after being down on his luck, and that last year's haunted house event in Queens did not go very well.
Yeah.
So he's got everything riding on this. So yeah, even when things start to go wrong or awry or people turn up missing, he's like, it's fine. We can go without him. So yeah, I understand that. So at least they've given you some motivation as to why they would carry on doing the job when things might seem like they shouldn't.
Yeah. And I mean, on top of that, we gotta love the fact that these guys just stayed in this location.
Yeah, it's all that natural setup.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't stay at the hotel to begin with. We stayed away, and then we started sleeping there when we got the electricity on. And then we follow them as they're setting up the cameras, they're looking at the props, and we're like, oh, we haven't got the budget, so no animatronics this time, so we're going to have to try and make these scary.
Yeah.
And I guess that one of the first sort of scares in the film happens around the 20-ish minute mark, when they're just walking through the hotel, and we see a shadow. I mean, you might not see the shadow.
Yeah, the camera has to return back.
No, that's the thing that immediately I was like, nah, I'm writing that down, because you've ruined the moment. Like, that moment should be there for you to catch if you're paying attention to the film.
Yeah.
And be like, oh, did I see a shadow? I don't know. I think I did.
Yeah.
And then film carries on whether you did or didn't. But the film goes, did you see that scary thing we put in the film? You didn't? Yeah. I'll rewind it for you and play it, and then we'll pause there. See, it's scary, and then carry on the film. And I was like, oh, movie, you had that subtlety going for you, and that would have been something. If you didn't catch it on the first time, maybe you like the film and watch it a second time, you catch it then. Yeah. But yes, I was like, you didn't need to do that. And it does that a couple more times. I was like, you just
I honestly couldn't understand what we were supposed to be scared of in this place.
That shadow.
Because
the clowns. Don't you like clowns? Aren't they fucking funny?
Don't we make you fucking laugh? Because Alex and his crew, they go down into the basement, and he's talking them through the tour, saying, well, we'll come through here and we'll go through the kitchen, through the front room, put this there, put that there, blah blah blah. And then they enter down into this basement area, and then the plan is for them to go through the basement out the other side, and that's the exit. And Alex has got this plan to have this girl chained down there. Is she going to be topless? If she's going to be not, we're not entirely sure. A couple of clown mannequins down there. Make it like I was like, you're going to have a chain girl and 3 clown mannequins, and that's supposed to be scary at the end of a tour. I'd ask for my fucking money back. But somebody's painted some kind of satanic pentagram shapes on the wall, and they're like, "Oh, did you put that there?" And Alex is like, "No, it was already here." So I'm like, "Oh, it's going to be a demon. There's going to be some kind of hellish demon stuff that's going to be happening in the basement." Because the film's already told me when we watched the tour from the YouTube video that when they went into the basement, everybody started freaking out. Okay. But then we get told that the owner of the hotel hung himself years before in the dining room.
Is it Andrew Tully, I think the name was?
Yeah, after a woman and her daughter went missing and nobody knows where they went. And I'm like, right, so did the demons kill the mum and daughter? Did the owner of the hotel kill them? Or was he answering voices from the demons in the ground? Did he paint the pentagrams? Why did he hang himself? So many questions that I was just like, I'm sorry, movie, I don't mean to be negative, but you're giving me information, but you're not giving me answers.
Yeah, but that's what a lot of found footage movies do. They're one and dones. They have a bit of a mystery, a few red herrings as well.
Yeah.
And then things usually happen with somebody getting dragged off at the end.
Yeah.
And you don't really know what happened. Was it? What was it?
What was it?
And that's fine. You keep guessing, you're wondering, and you try to piece the clues together to see if you can come to a resolution. And this film does that. It kind of ends that way as well. But that's fine, because if you are satisfied with that, you can be one and done movie. And if you want all the answers, all the questions you've just asked, there's a second one and a third one, and there's also another movie that I think is an origin story, a prequel. So.
I'm not going that far.
So if you have all those questions, there's a whole trilogy plus.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like we said, we saw that dark shadow, and I'm like, so the creepy stuff that you're trying to set up in this house, it's like they're trying to set up too many ideas, but they just didn't have the budget to follow. So we've got to now have this cloaky, shadowy figure thing hanging in the background to make you feel ominous. I'm like, right, so it's ghosts. This place is haunted. Because that's what I would have done. I would have just made it haunted. It's like when you've got, I think his name's Paul, who's the main camera operator. And he's walking around and he's just recording everybody and they're asking him to do work. And he's like, "Oh, sorry, buddy, I can't put the camera down," as per your standard camera operator in a found footage movie. And he's in his room talking to the camera at night, and this shadowy, silhouetted figure walks in with crazy ass hair. And
like a clown.
Yeah, well, I couldn't tell what it was. I thought it might have been a mad old woman. And he's like, "Oh, is that Sarah? Sarah, what's up?" And she walks off. And he's like, "Oh, that was creepy."
No shit. I'm like,
bruh, no. But the film just keeps ticking on. And there was a lull. An honest, I never really noticed lulls as much as Gary does sometimes, but I noticed it on this one where the movie had set up all this creepiness and how they're getting it all ready for the Halloween night, and then it just kind of dropped out in the middle where you were honestly just waiting for the next creepy thing to happen. There was no character building. There was no depth to the story. There was nothing in the middle of the movie that just made me sit on the edge of my seat and go, "Oh God, I really want to see how this ends." Ends up.
And it's because it's kind of truncated down because they turn up at the hotel like a whole month before they open.
Month before, yeah.
And that's basically the middle half an hour of the film where we see them being set up. We see arguments happen. We see them having to go out into the field and talk to each other and just make sure that they're okay. Yeah. We get this wonderful, wonderful shot of Sarah's backside. She's laying in bed as the camera pervs on her. We get the random conversations with Melissa, the girl that they're going to hire to be chained up in the basement, and she's the one who gives more backstory about what's going on. And we also then cut back to Sarah being interviewed, and then we also cut to more talking heads, and then we're back to the house again. And we've got Paul playing the piano with Hector.
Hector.
And then we've got the moment where he's filming. We see the clown at the top of the stairs, and he's like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, there? He thinks it's
then
his
he
friend.
looks down the stairs, and he looks back, and the clown's looking at him.
The clown's turned, yeah.
Then he runs, and then he runs downstairs. Now the clown's back downstairs, sat down again.
Yeah.
And it's like, look, it's on camera. Look at this. And the guys are like, yeah, I can't really explain it, but we've got a show to do in 2 days, so let's get ready.
Let's just carry on. Yeah, exactly. That was my issue was, you know, when this creepy shit happens, you know, the weird silhouetted character, the weird clown moving around, you know, at one point they hear a scream, and so Paul wakes up and he goes and talks to another guy, and the two of them see the mannequin at the bottom of the stairs. You know, they're absolutely freaked out. They go to move the mannequin. They realize that Sarah is standing in this room staring at a wall like sleepwalking, because obviously whatever malevolent spirit is inside this place is affecting her. And then they turn around and the mannequin clown is gone again. They're like, oh my god, this is absolutely freaky. We still got to put the show on in 2 days. I'm like, what? You're keeping it going. I get it, because you've got this film to accomplish. I get it. But you're building up and building up and building up all this scary ass tension, which as the audience, I know isn't going to, nothing bad is going to happen until we get to the tour night.
Yeah.
You know, and then none of you are going to get out because I've already been told by Dan that you all fucking die.
Its head doesn't fucking turn, and it turned last night when we were down here. Along with these two as well.
I'm not shutting down, Tony.
Yeah, we're shutting down. It's not safe anymore.
I'll tell you what I can't explain.
So when it does come to like the tour night, you know, they're all happy. They're all checking the cameras. I mean, Paul had gone missing as well. He'd gone to bed, turned the camera off, and then when he turned the camera back on, there was this crazy ass woman sat in his room with weird Evil Dead makeup on. Like, is she a ghost? Is she a possessed spirit that's come back? Is she a demon from the basement? I fucking don't know. Session 9 was more understandable than this film. And that film made no sense for 5 fucking days. And so he sees her when he wakes up and gets freaked out and pulls the quote over his head. And then he pulls it back off again and she's moved close. And it was a bit creepy. I was watching it late at night and I was like, okay, that's creepy. But then he goes missing. And when one of the guys goes to report it to Alex is like, wow, don't remember that time he disappeared for like 3 days when we were doing that other event? Oh, he'll be back. I'm like,
yeah.
None of you are even going to try and fucking look for your friend who might be missing.
Well, it's Paul. He does this. He's unreliable.
Yeah, they find him again. Guess what? He's catatonic because whatever he saw has absolutely scared him to buggery.
It scared him to bed.
Yes. To bed. That's great. I like that. I had a thought. The person who went on the tour with them, and walked around the haunted house, and saw some scary shit for his camera, and then uploaded it to YouTube, do you think he got demonetized?
Oh, demon. Yeah. Yeah.
Because they finally set up Melissa in the basement, and they set up the clowns, and they set everything up so that they can turn the tour on, and then they start letting people through. And I mean, it's cool jumping back between the tour guide's camera and then the camera on top of, I think it's Marty's head camera, and then you've got a couple of the CCTV cameras that you're watching. But as Gary and I both said, they didn't differentiate from any of the camera work anyway, so you're not entirely sure what you're looking at, unless you remember the rooms that you've seen as you've gone throughout the movies. And as people were being sent in, there was that guy, I can't remember his name, but he was playing the clown in the basement.
Oh, the guy that can do the trick eye thing.
Oh, yeah, it makes his eye pop out,
Yeah.
And he sees something that makes him freak out, and he comes running out of the basement past everybody. And supposedly 9 days after the tragedy, he killed himself without telling anybody what he saw. So I can't remember if we follow one of the tour guides into the basement with a camera or if they already had a camera down there. But this weird bald man in a black cloak, who kind of looks like Death from Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, turns up with his other black cloaked mates.
Yeah.
And they do something. I don't know what. I want to tell you what it is.
You
but
can't
the camera...
see because it's handheld shaky cam distorted imagery whilst there's loads of people running in the way,
and screaming.
So you don't really get to see, so you just, that was enough to be kind of scary because you don't know what the hell you saw, what the hell was going on. And then it reminds me of the the 911 call at the beginning.
Yeah.
Where there was somebody trying to say something into the walls. And from my mind painted that people were being grabbed and pulled into the walls. Thus, the portal into hell.
Yeah.
So we don't get to see it because there's no budget to do that kind of effect. So just some cloaked people moving and then screaming in pandemonium.
Yeah. And as people start to try to escape out, Alex is found hanging up in the CCTV room, much like the owner of the hotel. Sarah is absolutely freaking out. They've sent one of their friends down into the basement to find out if he can save Melissa, and the basement gets locked on him, so obviously he's dead. As Sarah and the guy with the camera on his head start to make their way up to find out what's going on, he gets taken out. I can't remember how he got taken out.
He kills himself. He slices his own throat, I think.
No, that was Paul, when Paul turned out from his catatonic state.
Yeah.
The guy ends up getting taken out, but Sarah gets the camera.
Doesn't he get hung as well?
Well, I think so, but...
I can't remember.
Oh, no, they end up into the room with the CCTV, and the silhouetted men turn up, and then he just gets knocked down.
Yeah.
Sarah grabs the camera, races down, and as she goes to race out the front door, which she had told Diane in the interview is what she did, we actually see the footage from Mitchell while he's looking at the camera work of her rushing down, and she's confronted by Paul, who, like I said, is out of his catatonic state, and he beats Sarah up off camera. Actually, it was. But
then we see her bloodied and dying on the floor. Before she's
dragged away by some unknown force, and then he slices his throat with the glass.
So we're just like, well, wait a minute, but she's been giving this interview this entire time.
Oh, shock!
Ghost.
She's a ghost that can leave places.
Yeah. Well, my interpretation of it was that she was now somebody out there to continue, because she comes out with all of the footage, doesn't she?
Yeah.
So I was like, well, my brain immediately went, well, the house has sent her out with the footage to tell people about it, so more people come into the house, so the house can consume more souls.
Right.
And that is exactly the plot of the second and third film as well. So it kind of repeats itself. So yeah, the house is putting people out there, because even spoilers for the other movies, the people that get killed in that, the 15 people, they start turning up around the town, also leading people to the house to feed more souls.
Right. So the house is evil.
The house has a portal to hell in it that was opened by the guy who was dead at the beginning of the film, but turns out he's not dead, or he went to hell, or he came back, and it gets confusing. But it does all make sense if you watch them all. But if you watch this film, you're like, what in the hell happened? I don't know. I guess she was dead this whole time.
Yeah, because we see Diane and our cameraman go to the place, and Sarah had said to Diane, I'm in room 2C. So they think she's in a hotel, but she's not. They go to the Abaddon Hotel. They find room 2C. They open up the door.
And she's in there.
And she's in there looking all freaky and fucked up like the woman who attacked Paul. And then the silhouetted people turn up. And that's the end of the movie. Yeah.
It doesn't have a satisfying ending, but like it's most found footage movies, even like Wreck, which is a really solid found footage movie, ends in a similar way where it's like, but
that's the thing, like I said about found footage formulas, is that they all do end up in that way. That's why they call them found footage. The people didn't survive, and you just found the footage.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like this with Wreck, and the same with Blair Witch Project. You know, they had a really solid story behind it. That even though all this crazy shit's going on and the camera's going all over the place, you know it. In Wreck, it's like an infection that's infecting people and turn them into kind of rabid zombie-like people. In Blair Witch Project, it's this ominous evil spirit that has encapsulated the whole town in the forest. With Hell House, I'm like, so the house is evil, or the portal to hell is just evil, and the souls are trapped in the house, but the house is eating the souls. Like, Shining was better than fucking Hell House.
By the third movie, there's an angel and a demon battling in this house, so yeah. Sorry.
Nope. No.
So that's what I'm like. Keep it to this one movie. Without those answers, I'm like, it's fine. I like the mystery.
I wish I'd wikied this. I wish I had so wikied this, but I was like, no, I won't wiki it.
Iain, what were your favourite scenes from Hell House LLC?
I'll admit that just a lot of the scary stuff that they were trying to do with no budget worked. The weird, crazy clown moment when he gets to the top of the stairs and it's looking down there, and then he looks down and he looks back and it's looking at him. You know it's a guy in a mask. There's nothing really freaky about it. They needed something to start the tension up. Why is the evil taking over that one clown? Can it take over all clowns?
Yeah.
Why is he...
I know, for a force from hell, it's kind of tame, isn't it?
It fucking is!
So I've got to build up the energy.
Yeah.
I don't want to scare them all away before all their guests arrive.
I've got to build up that fear from them. So I'm going to take this one clown and make it... And it's the way that they're constantly like, look, the clown doesn't move. And then they see the clown move and they go, oh, that's weird. Let's just carry on for...
But I'm like, they're all being affected by the house.
Right.
Psychologically, worn down.
Justification.
Yeah.
The other bit I liked was, like I said, when Paul went to bed and he woke up and the crazy ass woman was in his room. I mean, it's just that standard found footage camera work that you can do where, you're the audience, you're looking out of the camera, but the person operating the camera, can't see it until he turns, and then he's like, oh my god, it's freaky, and he pulls the sheet over his head. And, like I'm sat there in my front room, I'm like, just get up and fucking run at it, bitch. Just run at it. Just smash the guy. Like, don't put me in any kind of horrific situation because I'm violent as fuck. Why couldn't we find any footage? Because Iain beat the demon to death with the camera. Like, but he pulls the sheet down and it's closer, and he pulls the sheet up again and he pulls it down and it's right in his face. And you're like, ah! And then the camera turns off and he disappeared. It was all right. It was okay. Scary?
Yeah, I don't have any favourite scenes in this film.
I didn't.
There wasn't a single scene that I was like, oh, that was great.
Yeah.
There wasn't a single performance where I was like, oh, that was really, I felt that. Ooh. There wasn't a single gore effect where I was like, oh, how was that done?
There wasn't any gore effect.
No, there wasn't. So I was like, man, like there wasn't even any nudity.
No.
like this is a horror movie, right?
Yeah, I thought it was.
Damn. So yeah. So because I don't have any favorite scenes, I have to say I have to go with the general sense of the dread and the anticipation of finding out what happened in that basement.
Yeah.
Based on the beginning sequence of events in the film, like that documentary style, the seeing all the crowded people in that basement and the screams. I wanted to know what happened down there. So when we do get into the basement and we see the markings, and then we know all along that something's going to go on down there. So the film set it up and it didn't pay it off fully. Yeah. But it had a lingering sense that whole time. And what I also would like to say about this film is that there were no jump scares. There were no, cat in the closet, loud musical stingers like, aren't you scared now moments. So I have to appreciate the film's restraint in that regard. However, it did just mean that then the tension was ramping up and ramping up and ramping up without a payoff.
Yeah.
Because you need something really scary to happen to have the scare and then build it up for the even bigger crescendo. And the film doesn't really have a very big crescendo either.
No.
However, I was still engrossed because I liked all the characters. So without there really being a moment or a scene that really stood out, it's hard to say a single moment, really.
Totally.
Yeah. Iain, do you recommend Hell House?
I want to say no. I really, really want to say no. But at the same time, if you are a horror fan and you like found footage films, that you think every single one you see is absolutely fresh and they're not all just following a fucking paint by numbers map, give it a watch. Like Gary says, there's 3 more, so that's 6 hours you could waste of your life.
There's also a director's cut of this version, which we didn't watch.
Yeah, no. I will give the actors and the director and the editor, all the credit in the world for taking nothing and turning it into something. I will always praise especially in horror movies, less is more, and you can't get any more less than a low budget found footage film. It builds and builds and builds to this great moment in the basement, and then you don't see anything, and so on that, it's a waste of time. But personally, I already knew that when I was sitting down. You told me it was a found footage film. I was like, this is going to be a huge waste of time. Especially when the film starts and it goes, these are based on partial true events. I'm like, this is an even bigger waste of my fucking time. But hey ho, it's an hour and a half. Let's go. And by the end of the hour and a half, I turned it off. I didn't hate myself. I didn't want to smash the TV. I didn't want to watch it again. But there are a lot worse horror movies out there. There's a lot better ones. Hell House sits in that little suburb on its own where people go, who lives there? And everyone goes, nobody. And they just drive off.
Oh. Well, I'm going to be giving Hell House, LLC, my lowest, very low recommendation.
Low.
That's still a recommendation, as it's at least worth a watch for horror fans and found footage horror enthusiasts, you know, in the style of a mockumentary. Hell House has all the trappings of low-budget found footage tropes, but it does execute them fairly well, and it captures the tone of a real documentary to full effect, creating a real sense of immersion due to the solid cast who are believable and they deliver each of their characters. The performances were a real strength here, as they carry the whole show, as the film doesn't have any flashy effects or huge reveals to wow you, so it relies on subtlety and character to build that dread that was teased in the film's opening. The handheld camera work and the often muffled sounds and effects thankfully were not aggressively annoying, and the camera operator within the film had a personality that reflected in the shots and contributed to that immersion yet again. You know, I was surprised at how grounded and fairly realistic or authentic the film actually felt. A very ambitious film with some great build-ups and some good scares without relying on overused jump scares. It was satisfying, though it really did feel unoriginal. So I didn't hate it, I didn't love it. I would say that it was okay as a horror movie with no blood, no gore, no monster, no special effects, no nudity. But I would still say it's very much worth a watch. New York's scariest haunted house tour. Thanks for watching Off the Shelf Reviews.
Well, Hell House was a real tragedy on many levels.